The wacky world of MultimediaJay.
Stuff sitting around. Therefore, it's time to do something about it. So I've recently been encountering one of those classic Amazon frustrations where you go to buy something you need, and then in order to qualify for free shipping, you just pair it up with something you want, and you don't pay shipping on either thing, even though you don't need the thing you want right away. Well, this is one of those things I wanted that had to be paired up with something I needed. This is the Mika MB42C center channel speaker. It represents the final step in the declipshification of my old Klipsch Pro Media satellites that were serving as the satellites in my main system. So we got 4-inch woofers here and a tweeter in the middle, of course. Pretty nice setup. A pretty nice speaker. It handles everything quite nicely. But the key difference between this and the Klipsch center channel that it replaced from that product's family right there is that it goes lower. So whereas these were basically computer speakers and the satellites would stop at 120 Hz and send everything to the overpowered subwoofer, these will go down to 60 Hz, so more directional bass and warmer mid-range and stuff. What this allows me to do is set the crossover below 120 Hz, because now between this and the bookshelf speakers that I have as satellites, I have stuff that goes down lower that can do more warmer tones, more mid-range, and more directional bass. And I can pick either a 60 Hz or an 80 Hz crossover, so that way the only thing the subwoofer is handling is bass that is non-directional. A little bit heavier than the Klipsch's, a little bit heavier than the Klipsch stuff, so I'm not going to try and wobble things too much. But you can see that this Pro Media from 2005, this was the Ultra 5.1, is starting to show its age, because that Klipsch sticker used to be silver to match everything else, and now it's yellowing. So the speakers are still fine, and they would be great on their own as like bookshelf speakers or just some mid-ranges somewhere when paired up with something like a LaPi amp. But in terms of my main system, I wanted something that went deeper so I could have more directional bass, warmer tones, and put the crossover below 120 Hz. So it's time to do something with this stuff that's been sitting around the project area, and use the project area for more constructive stuff than this. First, our latest in Geekhouse 5S, I'm experimenting with Mainstay's so-called food storage containers, but if you look at how short they are, these could actually double as trays to sort things inside a desk drawer or something like that. So, and they're BPA free for the people that care about that stuff. But in terms of Geekhouse 5S and creating order from chaos in things like desk drawers or for small parts or something like that in the this setup, whatever you want to call it. Let's see how these so-called stackable food storage containers work for that sort of thing. And now we're getting back into the Amazon stuff. I also picked up a set of 4 smart plugs. I noticed that Walmart has kind of given up on smart plugs, and I think that might be because you can get sets of 4 of them for the same price as one of their Mercury Innovations or whatever it was, smart plugs. So I got these, which I'm going to use to continue with some of the smart sockety type stuff, like controlling the down fans and some other stuff that I want to voice control in the house. So I've had a bit of a renaissance with smart home technology. Not with this bulb, of course, but with the same 4 bulbs. I've experimented with an alternative service to Genie for the smart bulbs that I have, and as I predicted, now that I'm no longer using the most popular service that the bulbs default to, I have less network issues where the bulbs time out and stuff. Now it's more a matter of internally it times out and I have to turn it off and back on again. The big issue with smart technology is it is pretty dumb, so you have to take that into account with your setup. So if you have a smart bulb, this isn't one of them, but I'm just pointing this at a lamp or something, just for the heck of it. So if you have smart bulbs, they can glitch out, and you have to be able to cut the power and turn them back on in order to reinitialize them. It's like rebooting a computer. And when you're dealing with smart bulbs, they basically are computers. The same thing, too, with these smart plugs. It's nice that there's something you can actually walk over to and push the button. Wow, all those cars going by. Everybody's redlining today. I don't know why, but not like a car, somebody in a plastic Saturn who like sawed a hole in the muffler. Oh, my car's fast now that it's loud. We got a couple of those out here in hick country. So, yeah, so I'm reprising my views on smart home technology. We'll get into this a little bit more in a more dedicated discussion later on. But obviously, if I'm buying a set of smart plugs to voice control more things in the house, like down fans and stuff this winter, obviously, I want to try more stuff with the technology. Plus, these Tech-In, again, spelled differently than the video game series. These Tech-In smart plugs are compatible with the program that I'm using. The problem is, as you can tell from the size, they'd be a little bit bulky if they were on a power strip. And that's where the main attraction comes into play. Back in the 90s, during the heydays of the Radio Shack catalog, yeah, we're going back, there were these things. And these things were referred to as DC adapters, as opposed to AC adapters. And I was like, DC adapters? Why? What do you need these for? Well, if you use a lot of AC adapters, you'll very quickly find out why you would want a DC adapter. On a power strip, the big blocks take up a lot of space. Some power strips turn sideways these days, but things can still be pretty blocky and take up a lot of space and make things not fit. So what a DC adapter did, you'd plug this into your power strip, and then you have a little cord length, and the blocks can all just hang off the edge over here. And of course, underneath this little safety cover, there's two more sockets. And because it's low current, because you're talking AC adapters here and not something like power tools or anything, the current issues would not be a problem with the conductor that was used in the cord. The big issue is these are from the 90s. They're almost 20 years old, so I have to start wondering, especially when I see signs of, maybe it won't show up on camera, but if I start seeing signs that the plastic or the insulation is yellowing, or this thing actually, this thing is yellowing just a little bit, but not very much. When plastic yellows, its chemical composition is changing, and it often becomes more brittle. So I don't want really old stuff handling 120 volts AC like this. So I've been looking for a replacement for these things for years, but nobody has ever made a DC adapter replacement. That was until I found out about the next best thing, short cords. So-called extension cords. In this case, these are little 8-inch extension cords. But obviously, as you can see, they would serve the same purpose. You would plug the plug into your power strip, there'd be a little bit of cord, and then you'd plug the big blocky thing into the other side. Let's take a look at one of these. Let's take a look at some of these. These are MultimediaJay. I almost said Milady or something. But these are, you can find these on Amazon. Buy them in bulk, obviously, and they have little warning tags that, you know, it's electrical stuff. It could be a hazard, you know, even though it is a little 8-inch extension cord. The big question I have with regards to the short cords is their building code status. I don't know if someone could use these in a commercial environment because it could be a fire and safety code thing because it technically counts as an extension cord. And one of the things that building codes here in Connecticut are not very friendly to is using extension cords as permanent wiring. So, but these are only 8 inches. I imagine from a heat perspective or whatnot, this isn't going to be an issue, particularly with an AC adapter on the other side, so it's not something that draws a lot of current in the first place. I'm just wondering, you know, from the clipboard thumping perspective of folks using these in business environments or something, if this could cause an issue. I'll leave that to the folks that actually work with that stuff to figure out. Anything else on the bag before we tear this thing open? Ah, yeah, so 8-inch, 3-prong, 13 amp, but again, I'm buying these mostly for AC adapters, so if there's ever an AC adapter that draws more than 13 amps of current, something is dreadfully wrong. There's probably a short somewhere, and it shouldn't be used anyways. But yeah, I'm going to call these short cords, even though they're considered extension cords, because, yeah, just barely an extension cord. But I think these will serve the purpose quite well of getting power blocks off of the power strips, so you don't have to squeeze things in. Let's check these things out. There we go, got one of these out of the box. Of course, you have the little zip tie with the tag saying, hey, don't be an idiot with electricity, etc., etc. You can probably just cut that later. But from a Geekhouse 5S perspective, these are all going to match. Take this off, and then we've got ourselves 3-prong, and it's polarized, so it can't be plugged in upside down. It says it's 8-inch, but I mean, look at how small this thing is. I bet most of the a sizable chunk of the 8 inches is the 2 plugs. So yeah, pretty cool. You just put this in. It's like plugging in a power tool, basically. Sit the darn camera down. I think this setup needs to be a little better. Plug in the power tool thingy there, and then just do that. plug it in like you're plugging in a power tool, put the block way over here, and then these can go anywhere. These are probably stiff because they're brand new. But yeah, this is going to do the trick. The only catch versus the old DC adapter is that it's only one power block per cord, so now I'm basically going to have to figure out what to do in the situations where I was using all three of these. But at least it retires this old 20-year-old wiring once and for all. Plus, a little bit of yellowing, hard to see on camera, but there is in real life. You can see the yellow starting to form mostly around the cracks of this stuff. So much like I wouldn't want to use old power strips that had started to yellow and stuff like that, I don't want to use these things either. Something else I'm finding interesting, if you go to cut off the "Don't be an idiot" tags for the electricity warnings, you can actually use the tag to make sure you don't cut into the insulation with cutting pliers to take those zip ties off. I do have a bit of an issue, and this does kind of illustrate one of the long-running problems I have with people's overly liberal use of zip ties, because if you look how tight that is, hard plastic versus soft insulation usually leads to something like that. Now, just let this be a warning. I mean, I've talked with lots of mechanical type folks over the years. You see that where the zip tie was? That it's already just from shipping eating into the insulation? That eventually that could eventually pull something to where it goes intermittent or causes other issues as well. And it's not cosmetic either. I mean, I could rub that like crazy and it would still stay there. So there's still little dings in the insulation just from the zip ties. Again, hard plastic and soft insulation over the long term are not a good combination. This is a short cord in its natural habitat. Just take the big block that used to run that smart plug and just do this instead. Put it off to the side. I just got to figure out what to do about the thing flopping off to the side like this. I didn't even know it was just turning it sideways or something and making it fit. Don't knock stuff over. Probably should dust as well. Wow, that was quick. I used them up already. I only have 4 of these left, and the remaining 4 are going to go with these smart plugs that I just picked up, so that way they don't get too blocky. As you can see, the size difference between the size of the smart plug and the size of this cord wouldn't translate very well on a power strip, so what this lets me do is this. The thing to figure out, though, is because this isn't turning anything sideways, the short cords have an issue where things can flop over to the side and start turning and bending as gravity does its thing. This is relatively nicely well balanced, but some of the other smart sockets that I have aren't so much like that. I think what might be a better option for something like this is if the other side had a way of just dropping the block down from above instead of plugging it in like a standard extension cord. That might require, things, well, that's basically what the DC adapters had. Now, these do serve their purpose. They do serve their purpose. You just have to figure out what to do about the big block that you're getting out of the way when the cord's this short. Maybe I should have gone up to maybe a 10-inch or a 1 foot long, cord like this. But with something like this, you just plug it in, and it only takes up one spot. And you just got to figure out what to do about this stuff up here. And of course, the button to turn it on and off is very easily accessible. Alright, well, baby steps, but we just put one foot in front of the other until this Geekhouse is finally the way that I want it, and all this clutter is finally a thing of the past. How long will that take? I don't know, but there'll be plenty of tech videos and other stuff that I can make while getting all of this taken care of. So it looks like I've got some smart plugs to deploy. Let's have some fun with the new stuff instead of waiting to make a video about it. Till next time, this is MultimediaJay signing off. Thanks for stopping by.